Hey guys, this is Financial Fitness, and we're just wrapping it up at work, about to start heading home. And I was going through my interview with Andy Schectman, and I was going to fill you in at the front because my audio is horrible in the video. What I'm doing with Andy is on a weekly basis, we're going to ask him questions, and we're going to get Andy's take on things because he's been in this business for 31 years. He's had to watch everything come and go, and I felt like he was a really good person to ask about the petrodollar. And I can't wait for you to hear his take on it. So I hope y'all enjoy it. Like and subscribe and hit the bell. Let's go.
The petrodollar ties into all of this. The silver and gold, precious metals in general, is like the best hedge that I can think of. I can't think of another one.
Well, a couple of weeks ago was the 50th anniversary of Nixon closing the gold window. And what that means is at the end of World War II, at Bretton Woods, Hampshire, the dollar was anointed the world reserve currency. And it took over for the British pound sterling. And the dollar was pegged to gold, and all of the world's currencies were then pegged to the dollar. And so from the end of World War II until 1971, when Nixon went back on this promise, the dollar was as good as gold. And the reason he went back on the promise is that towards the end of the Vietnam War, a lot of countries realized that we were printing more money than we had gold in reserves, and they started to call our bluff, so to speak. And in particular, de Gaulle from France started sending warships over to pick up gold, trading in the dollars for gold, and which they had the right to do. So much so that we lost over 50% of the gold held in the treasury over a very short period of time. He was draining it at such a furious pace that Nixon temporarily, so he said, closed the gold window, immediately severing the tie to gold, going back on our word to the world, and rendering the dollar worthless, just paper, fiat, right? Shortly thereafter, Henry Kissinger went to Saudi Arabia and struck a deal with the Saudis, with the Saudi kingdom, and said, we'll protect you. We will give you military support and cooperation. For that, you will value oil globally in dollars, and you'll get all your OPEC buddies to do the same thing. And they said, okay, sure. So since 1971, what has given the dollar its world reserve status is its relationship with Saudi Arabia and OPEC. Now, there are a few things to talk about here that are very frightening and maybe as significant as anything that I've ever seen in 30 years. 3 or 4 things in particular. Number one, a couple of weeks ago, right after the debacle in Afghanistan, when we pulled out and left citizens there and left the people who are our allies, who helped the effort there behind enemy lines, probably to die, which wasn't a very honorable thing to do. The timing, I think, is no coincidence. Russia signed a joint military cooperation agreement with Saudi Arabia. Now, this is a big, big deal. So for 50 years, we've protected Saudi Arabia, and out of nowhere now Russia decides that they are going to offer, and Saudi Arabia agreed to it, joint military cooperation with Russia. The day after that, Russia signed the exact same agreement with Nigeria. These are the 2 biggest OPEC producing countries in the world. After that, the next day, an article in Zero Hedge says that Russia, who they and China, who are 4 to 5 years ahead of us in hypersonic missile technology, have outfitted all of their naval cruisers and nuclear submarines with hypersonic ICBMs. In other words, and pardon my French, that was their way of looking at the U.S. and say, try to fuck with us. And, we went and knocked off Saddam Hussein and Muammar Gaddafi because they both threatened to value their oil in euro. Good luck trying to do that to the Saudi kingdom with protection from Russia and China. Now, this is a big, big deal, Chris. And just the other day, I read another article that said that the U.S. was moving their missiles They have a missile defense system, and they were moving them out of Saudi Arabia. And let me just read something here too. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah,
here it is. Saudi Prince Turk Al Faisal was critical of the move, saying the U.S. must not move Patriot missiles out of the kingdom, and saying that the nation needs reassurance of U.S. military commitment. Is that interesting that they just struck the same deal with Russia? He goes on to say, Faisal said this was a bad time for the U.S. to withdraw missiles when Saudi Arabia is the victim of missile attacks and drone attacks, not just from Yemen, but from Iran. With the Saudi invasion of Yemen ongoing, the Houthis have launched missiles and drones in retaliation. Though these are mostly in southern Saudi Arabia, a fair distance from the U.S. deployment, Iran's only relation is that Saudis tend to blame Iran for what the Houthis do on the ground, that they are both Shiite. The timing of the redeployments may also be significant, coming ahead of the new release of the 9/11 documents related to Saudi involvement. The documents are, as usual, are trying not to directly implicate the Saudi government in the conclusion, but with Saudi so heavily involved in every stage of the plot, the administration may have decided this was a good time to be less conspicuously providing the Saudis with military support. So we're backing away from our agreement. The Russians are sliding in, and the only thing that has made the dollar the world reserve currency for 50 years is the relationship with them.